All right, let's talk about something that's keeping a lot of IT leaders up at night. In this hybrid world we're all living in, your most valuable stuff, your data, it's not safely tucked away behind the company firewall anymore. So, how do you protect it? We're going to break down a whole new way of thinking about security, one that kind of forgets the old perimeter and focuses on what really matters, the data itself. Let's dive in.
Okay, so this is the question, right? If you're a CIO, if you're a CISO, this is what you're wrestling with. That old castle and moat idea, where you just protect the corporate network, it's gone. It's totally obsolete. Your people are everywhere, and guess what? Your data is scattered right there with them.
And this really just paints the picture, doesn't it? The complexity is, wow, your data isn't just sitting on-prem anymore. It's in SharePoint, it's in private clouds, it's all over public clouds like AWS and Azure, and it's being hit by employees, contractors, you name it, from countless devices. So the challenge has completely shifted. It's not about building higher walls around your network anymore. It's about protecting the data itself, no matter where it is or where it's going.
This quote just nails it. Cybercrime is no longer a perimeter problem, it's a data problem. I mean, think about that. The game has changed. Attackers aren't just trying to breach your network, they're gunning for your data. And when the threat landscape shifts that fundamentally, well, our entire defensive strategy has to shift right along with it.
So, if the problem is now all about the data, it only makes sense that the solution has to be data-centric too. And that brings us to the main event here, Zero Trust Data Access, or as you'll see it, ZTDA. This is a totally new paradigm for thinking about security.
So what is Zero TDA really? Well, at its heart, it's a security model built on one incredibly simple, powerful principle. Never trust, always verify. What does that mean in practice? It means every single request to access data, every single one, is treated like it could be a threat. Access is only granted with the absolute bare minimum privilege needed to get the job done. And that trust, it gets checked and rechecked for every single thing you do next.
Now, ZTDA doesn't just exist in a bubble. A complete zero-trust architecture, as you can see here, has a few key pillars. You've got identity, applications, and the network. But there's always been a critical piece missing, and that's where FileFlex comes in. It provides that missing piece of the puzzle, the data layer. It's the part that actually controls access to the files and folders themselves, really completing that whole zero-trust picture.
Okay, so how does FileFlex actually pull this off? Well, the secret sauce is this concept they call the dark storage architecture. And the name really says it all, right? The whole goal is to let people access the data they need, but keep the underlying storage infrastructure, the servers, the shares, completely invisible, completely dark and inaccessible to the user.
All right, I know this diagram looks a little complex at first glance, but it perfectly shows how this dark storage idea works. You've got the user over on the left and all your data repositories on the right. But look closely. What's the most important thing here? It's what's not there. There is no direct line, no direct connection between the user and the data. Instead, every single request has to go through that FileFlex policy server sitting right in the middle. It's the ultimate middleman.
Let's walk through this flow step by step. So, number 1, a user through an app requests a file. Simple enough. 2, the policy server jumps in. It verifies who the user is, authenticates their device, and checks all the policies that apply. Now 3, and this is the most critical step, the server tells a little connector agent sitting near the data to act as a go-between. The user never, and I mean never, gets a direct connection to the storage infrastructure. And finally, 4, that connector grabs the file, encrypts it, and sends it back to the user through a secure, temporary channel. The connection is made, the data is delivered, and the path vanishes.
Okay, so we've seen the architecture. We know how the data flows. But what actually decides if a request gets a yes or a no? The real genius of this model is in its policy enforcement. Because everything is mediated, you can get incredibly specific with your rules. But what's just as important, and something we really need to dig into, is what this model deliberately ignores when it makes a decision.
This little loop here, authenticate, evaluate, and enforce, this isn't a one-time thing. This happens for every single file operation, in real time. A user logs in, they want to open a file, boom, policy check. They want to save it, boom, another policy check. It's a continuous, per-request authorization flow. No free passes.
And here's where things get really interesting, and what makes this approach so different. Access is based on 3 core things. User identity, from your SSO, Active Directory, Entra ID, device authentication, and of course, granular policies like role-based or attribute-based access control. Now look at what it's not based on. This is huge. Network location is totally irrelevant. Being on the corporate network or a VPN grants you zero special privilege. And here's the kicker. It deliberately avoids checking device posture or doing device fingerprinting. Now you might ask why? Because this is a data access platform, not an endpoint security tool. The focus is purely on authorizing access to the data. This creates a much cleaner, more scalable security model that doesn't get bogged down trying to manage the constantly changing state of thousands of different endpoints.
So what does all this unique architecture get you? It really boils down to two massive benefits that every CISO is chasing: really powerful ransomware mitigation and complete, unified visibility through your CM.
Let's break down how this actually helps you fight ransomware. First off, dark storage. If attackers can't even see your network shares, they can't attack them. Simple as that. Second, that per-object authorization we talked about, it basically kills lateral movement between files. A compromised account can't just wander through your entire file system. Third, if you do detect a compromise, you can revoke that user or device's access instantly. Gone. And finally, because every single action is logged, you can use analytics to spot weird activity, like massive data exfiltration, which is often the first sign of a ransomware attack brewing. And for your security operations team, your SOC, this is pretty much the holy grail. Every single action, every view, every download, every share attempt is captured in an immutable log. You can't change it. And all of that rich data, all that telemetry, is exported directly into whatever CM you're already using. What you get is a single pane of glass for all data access activity across your entire hybrid environment. For compliance, for audits, for threat hunting, that's just invaluable.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with a really critical question for every single security leader out there. In a world where the perimeter has basically dissolved, are you securing your network or are you securing your data? Because focusing on network security today is kind of like locking the front door of a house that has no walls. The real challenge, the modern challenge, is securing the data itself. So the question you have to ask is your security strategy actually protecting your data, or is it just protecting the ghost of a network that isn't really there anymore?